When heroes look like you, the revolutionary power of representation. Have you ever walked into a toy store and felt invisible, or opened a book and wondered why no one on those pages looked like you? Now imagine being a child with a disability who has never, not once, seen themselves reflected as the hero of any story. I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Carmella Alexander, a visionary advocate whose work has transformed how we think about representation for children, especially those with disabilities. Her revolutionary approach has not just changed how I see the world, but has sparked a movement that is reshaping the very fabric of our society. Carmella isn't just talking about inclusion, she's redefining it, rebuilding it from the ground up with justice at its core. Representation isn't a luxury, Carmela emphasized during our conversation. It's a lifeline. Those words stopped me in my tracks. A lifeline, not a nice to have, not a checkbox, a lifeline. When a child with a disability picks up a book or a toy and sees someone like themselves portrayed as brave, capable, and worthy of love, that's not just making them happy. It's telling them they have the right to exist in this world, that they belong here, that their story matters. And yet, how many children are still waiting for that moment of recognition? The statistics are sobering. Less than 4% of children's books feature characters with disabilities. Even fewer feature those characters as the heroes of their own stories. And when we look at the intersection of disability with race, gender, or other marginalized identities, the numbers become vanishingly small. This isn't just disappointing, it's devastating. Because here's what happens when children don't see themselves represented. They begin to believe they're not worthy of being seen. They internalize the message that their experiences don't matter, that they are somehow less than, that they exist on the margins of a world not built for them. I remember walking through a major toy store last Christmas, scanning the shelves for dolls that reflected any kind of disability. Row after row, shelf after shelf, nothing, not a single wheelchair, not a single hearing aid, not a single indication that children with disabilities exist in the imaginary worlds we create for play. And we wonder why children with disabilities often struggle with self esteem. We're literally erasing them from the narrative of childhood. During my interview with Carmela, she shared a powerful insight that I haven't been able to shake. Every child deserves to be the hero of their own story. Think about that for a moment. Every child, not just the ones who fit neatly into society's narrow definition of normal, not just the ones whose bodies and minds function in expected ways. Every single child deserves to see themselves reflected back with dignity, with agency, with possibility. This isn't about charity, it's about justice. And that brings me to the second profound lesson from my conversation with Carmela. Inclusion must be intentional and rooted in justice. We've all seen the performative inclusion that happens when companies suddenly discover diversity is trending. A wheelchair user appears in an ad campaign. A character with autism shows up for one special episode. A Black doll gets added to a toy line, but with the same features as the white doll, just painted brown. That's not inclusion, that's tokenism. And children can tell the difference. That's real inclusion requires intention. It requires listening to the communities being represented. It requires understanding that disability isn't something to be overcome, it's an integral part of human diversity that brings unique perspectives and strengths. The Pink Parachute Diaries podcast offers a powerful example of what intentional inclusion looks like. Created specifically because Black professionals were feeling pressure to hide their struggles in professional spaces. This platform gave voice to those who had been silenced. Many Black women reported feeling isolated due to expectations of perfectionism. They had few spaces where authenticity was welcomed. The podcast provided that dedicated space for honest storytelling around vulnerability, faith, and resilience. The results? Listeners reported feeling seen and empowered. Industries began shifting conversations around leadership. Authentic community flourished. This is what happens when we center marginalized voices. It transforms not just individuals' sense of self worth, but broader professional cultures by normalizing inclusion as foundational rather than optional. Nahisha McCoy's journey offers another compelling example. Conventional career advice often tells marginalized professionals to compartmentalize personal identity at work, a nearly impossible task when your lived experiences don't fit existing power structures. Instead of hiding her authentic self, McCoy chose vulnerability. By sharing her real challenges, she built powerful communities within her industry while driving cultural change toward greater authenticity at all levels of leadership. Her approach led not only to individual healing, but also systemic transformation, shifting what success looks like across organizations serving underrepresented groups. This reinforces Carmella's assertion that difference should be honored rather than hidden or overcome. It shows how intentional representation changes outcomes at scale. And then there's Blavity Inc., founded by young Black creatives, including Morgan DeBaun. They intentionally centered diverse narratives after recognizing digital burnout among staff trying too hard to mimic mainstream trends instead of celebrating their own identities. Team members faced anxiety from social media pressures, and editorial output suffered due to second guessing whether their unique perspectives would be accepted. The solution, leadership instituted mandatory screen breaks, encouraged muting competitive accounts, and invested in mindfulness coaching tailored specifically for young Black creatives' needs. The results were remarkable. Staff retention rose dramatically, creative output increased significantly, and employees credited these changes with rediscovering joy and purpose through authentic storytelling. Blavity grew into an industry leader because management realized true innovation comes when creators feel grounded and empowered by seeing themselves reflected meaningfully in company culture and content. These examples demonstrate why inclusion must be intentional, not accidental, to unlock brilliance among those historically left out, and why supportive environments help marginalized youth see themselves as heroes within real world narratives. Which brings me to the third crucial insight from my conversation with Carmella: your story and your action matters. We often think change happens through grand gestures, through policy, through institutions. And yes, those things matter enormously. But change also happens through the small choices we make every day. It happens when a parent deliberately seeks out books featuring diverse characters for their child's bookshelf. It happens when a teacher ensures their classroom library reflects the full spectrum of human experience. It happens when a toy company executive decides that their next style line will include authentic representation of children with disabilities, not as an afterthought, but as a central design principle. It happens when we all recognize our power to shape the narratives that surround us. As Carmella emphasized, whether you're a parent, educator, business leader, or advocate, you have the power to drive change by supporting inclusive creators and sharing stories that celebrate difference as strength. This isn't just about making marginalized children feel good, though that would be reason enough. It's about creating a more just and equitable world for everyone. Because here's the truth: When we limit the stories we tell, we limit our collective imagination. We limit our understanding of what's possible. We limit our capacity for empathy and connection. And conversely, when we expand those stories, when we make room for every child to see themselves as the hero, we expand what's possible for all of us. I want to challenge you today. Look around your home, your workplace, your community. Who is represented? Who is missing? Whose stories are centered and whose are relegated to the margins if they appear at all? Then ask yourself, what can I do right now to change that? Maybe it's supporting businesses run by creators from marginalized backgrounds who center disability and diversity authentically, not tokenistically. Maybe it's donating inclusive books and toys like Fearless Trademark Plush Dolls Trademark, so every child gets a chance at being seen as extraordinary. Maybe it's using your voice, your platform, your purchasing power to demand better representation across all media. Whatever it is, do it with intention. Do it with justice at the center. Do it with the understanding that representation isn't just about making people feel good. It's about recognizing their fundamental right to exist fully in this world. As the Pink Parachute Diaries podcast has shown us, when we create spaces where authenticity is welcomed, where vulnerability is honored, where difference is celebrated, we don't just change individual lives, we change cultures, we change systems, we change the future. Carmella's work reminds us that every child deserves to see themselves as the hero of their own story, not someday, not when it's convenient, not when the market demands it, now. So I stand here today asking you to join a revolution of representation, a revolution that says no child should ever have to search for themselves in stories. No child should ever wonder if they belong. No child should ever question their worth because the world around them failed to reflect their existence. This isn't just a nice idea. This is a moral imperative because when we deny children the right to see themselves as heroes, we deny them the ability to imagine their own futures. And a child who cannot imagine their future is a child whose potential we have collectively failed. I refuse to accept that failure, and I'm asking you to refuse it too. Walk out of this room today and become a revolutionary in your own right. Demand better from the companies you support. Create spaces where the difference isn't just tolerated, but celebrated. Amplify the voices that have been silenced. And never, ever underestimate the power of a child seeing themselves reflected in the world around them. Because representation isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. And providing that lifeline isn't just about kindness. It's about justice. It's about fundamentally reshaping our world so that no child ever has to wonder if there's a place for them in it. Every child deserves to be the hero of their own story. Let's make that reality together starting today. Thank you.